So, for the last several weeks, I've been talking about on this show how a drink that Jeff suggested I try has been my drink of choice coming into the show, which is orange, mixing it in with some peach whiskey. Tonight, I'm trying some pina colada crush mixed with the peach whiskey. I have to say it's even smoother than the other stuff. However, there's just some mixes you just should not do. Like, my wife went out drinking about a week ago, and she had some Crown Royal Apple mixed with 7-Up, which sounds amazing. Really, it does. The problem is, the next day she said, you know, Jack Daniels has a new Tennessee Apple. Maybe I should try mixing that with 7-Up. And I cringed. And I groaned. And I grimaced. And I looked at her and said, are you kidding me? You don't mix Jack Daniels with anything. I don't care if it's Jack Daniels Tennessee Apple. I don't care if it's Tennessee Honey. I don't care if it's the Winter Jack. The only thing that should ever be in your Jack Daniels, and this is only with some exception, is a little bit of ice. But mostly it should just be neat. That's what Jack Daniels is meant to be drank. What isn't neat, speaking of bad mixes, is ending your biggest pay-per-view of the year with a lame duck champion. I understand that Sami Callihan won the world title a few days later, and he'll be the world champion tomorrow night when it's off the air. However, Brian Cage's title reign was a disaster, and for him to deserve to leave not only Slammiversary, but also fucking Bound for Glory as the TNA World Champion is laughable. I can't say the result of the match was bad necessarily because the result of the match fit the entire story. Brian Cage had to win that match, but the story was told poorly. And now, of course, you want to have a big impact on your big relaunch of your show. But really, Brian Cage leaving Bound for Glory as World Heavyweight Champion put a bit of a sour taste in my mouth simply because I knew it couldn't last and I knew it wasn't deserved. How did you feel about it, Jeff?
I thought Sami Callihan should have won it there, but unfortunately, with the way that wrestling companies book, you can't. They never let the bad guy win a storyline like that, ever. So it was kind of predictable. I mean, I'll be honest, that match might have been really close to probably the best match on the night, which is not saying a lot, but it wasn't a horrible match. I liked Sami Callihan's. I forget because I don't watch Impact, and since he's not on MLW, just how great Sami Callihan is. His promo leading up to that match, and then the way he worked during that match was amazing. It was amazing to watch him work.
Yeah, I don't even question match of the night or not. I don't have any question.
The only even ladder tag match, the Impact disaster from start to finish. The people who should have stole the show. One of them laid on the 90% of the match, and the other one kept missing spots left and right. And it wasn't that he was missing spots. It's the fact that the way that the spots were set up was so poorly done that he had to look like he was in slow motion just to get them done. The way that they placed those ladders when he tried to jump up on the ladder, to go over the when he was going to hit the guy on the table, Daga on the table, when Austin went up to kind of hurdle that ladder. And there was a couple other instances where he went to do some just ridiculous move, and because of the way the ladder, we couldn't get it done.
I really lost interest in this show. I mean, I saw the review, and again,
who was watching?
I appear to be watching a different show than other people are when we watch some of these.
Well, I mean,
you and I really are fans of Impact, but I think sometimes their stuff is maybe better than people are expecting, so it gets overrated.
And maybe that's the case. Maybe people aren't really into the storylines as like we are and into the what's going on. But I just, from top to bottom, this was just. Why was it a gauntlet match? every gauntlet match I've ever known is two wrestlers go at each other until one gets defeated, then the next one comes down. It's not a battle royal that turns into a one-on-one match. How is that a gauntlet match?
That's always been the gauntlet in TNA/Impact, though. Always.
It's dumb.
That's
dumb.
I hate it. Ken Shamrock won the world title in the first place. Was it one of those type of matches?
They didn't call it a gauntlet match then. They called it what it was, a battle royal until there were two competitors remaining.
No, they called it a gauntlet match.
Did they? It's stupid. It's just stupid. The Taya Valkyrie is amazing, but Tennille Dashwood can bring down any match she's in.
Not only is Taya Valkyrie amazing, but she looked amazing in this match too.
Oh yes, she did. I did like the Rob Van Dam heel turn, but I kind of want to see where it goes. Michael Elgin at times looks like he's in slow motion. Have you noticed that? There's times that he sets up for a move to happen way before it's supposed to happen, and he just kind of stands there waiting for it, and then he sells it in the slowest motion possible.
It's called building drama.
It's not building drama when you punch somebody and then stand there for 30 seconds waiting to get kicked in the face.
Ah, okay.
And well, not 30 seconds, but 4 seconds of standing there waiting to get kicked in the face. That's not building drama. It's just that I noticed about his movement that was clunky, and it was almost like I don't want to say that their timing was off, because it's not the first time I've seen this in a Michael Elgin match. I just think that's Michael Elgin. I just think that he is that plodding guy who doesn't really understand timing. So he kind of gets to moves before he's supposed to get to moves. Kind of like we talked about with the, at the end of All Out, when Adam Page screwed up that ending by not taking his time. Michael Elgin seems to rush into the next move without letting it breathe.
Michael Elgin is that video game character who he gets hit a few times and starts moving sluggishly, and then he somehow gets like some of that special fruit that overpowers him, and then he's moving like super fast when he's until that slows down, and then he's back to normal speed.
But his normal speed is not. His timing. And it's not just, like I said, it's not just against Marufuji. I mean, I get it. Marufuji is first time they've ever worked together. There's a language and so on and so on and so on. But I've seen him perform like this against other people. I saw him perform like this in Brian Cage. I saw it the couple of times I saw him in New Japan, and of course in Ring of Honor. He does not understand timing. Yeah, he's a big scary dude, and to a live audience it probably doesn't look as obvious as it does on TV, but on TV he's not smooth at all.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair point. I've always enjoyed his matches, but I guess equivalent to him would be like if you listen to like Willie Nelson sing, he's always a little bit off tune,
Right.
He's off that. He's like one beat off when he's singing. And I think Elgin's kind of that same way in the ring, and it doesn't bug me because he's bringing something different to the table. But I can certainly see where it bugs somebody.
I think the reason it bugs me is because it's not a real fight. I mean, he's trying to be this big badass that's looking for a real fight, and then he stands there awkwardly waiting to get punched. I think that's the part that bugs me about it.
Okay. Yeah,
but regardless, I mean, the show itself, the storylines, I mean, I can see some goodness coming out of this. Finally, rid of Tennille Dashwood so Taya can go on to something else. I like Ace Austin. Yeah, I like Ace Austin as the X Division champion. I think that's going to play into his character perfectly. And it sets up for a hell of a feud to continue between him and Eddie Edwards, since Eddie won the gauntlet match.
Yeah, interestingly, I don't know if you watched This Is Impact, but they announced that one of the matches. First of all, we just mentioned Marufuji. So Marufuji is taking on Josh Alexander on tomorrow night's Impact.
Oh, that'll be fun.
And then also, Eddie Edwards is taking on Ace Austin. They didn't say it was for the X Division title or anything. They just said they were having a match.
I don't know. They've been having the feud of the last few months, so I kind of want to see it continue. Are they going live on Axis tomorrow?
No, because because like I said, Sammy's already won the world championship.
Oh, okay. Oh, and that's going to air tomorrow night.
You don't care about spoilers, so I mentioned it, and it was. But I saw it on Twitter yesterday, and I ended up getting spoiled on it, unfortunately.
So that's going to end up on their show tomorrow night. Then, are they going to start broadcasting Tuesdays?
I believe so. Yeah.
We're almost there. Then we're almost to our wrestling every single day of the week.
We are. Yeah, Brian Cage. It's Cage defending the title in a steel cage against Sami Callihan tomorrow night on Impact, and Sammy leaves with the championship. So very happy for my boy Sammy. As you know, he's my favorite wrestler on the planet. So very happy that he's now the world champion. But I just think he's and I understand it's also like a big stage because it's her first television show on Access. But at the same time, it was taped. People already know what happened. I hate when wrestling companies spoil things on their own, like WWE did a few years ago when Alberto Del Rio beat Big Show for the championship. I think we talked about that on our previous show.
We did at some point.
But at the same time, I mean, it's going to get eyes on their, people. There's other people like me and you that are big Sami Callihan fans, so it's going to get eyes on that show. And I think it's a bit of a compliment to Sammy in that sense.
Well, and I was planning on watching it anyway. I just didn't know what day it was premiering, so I'm glad I found out tonight at least. So I'm going to end up watching it, and knowing that Sammy's going to walk out with the title at the end of it makes me even happier.
Yeah.
Because I think he's one of the few guys out there that, I like. There's certain other guys that I absolutely love, and he's easily in my top 5. But out of my top 5, he's really the only guy that never held a championship. Not a major championship. Not his singles. Has he held a singles championship?
Well, he has his own promotion. I can't remember his own promotion name, but I'm pretty sure he didn't. He also in my God, what's the hell's the name of it?
MLW?
No, the Extreme Promotion.
Oh, CZW. Those don't count. Those don't count. I'm talking about a major promotion that we watch.
No, he's never held a championship in a major promotion that we watch.
And he's the last one of my top 5 that's never held not only a singles title but any title. Because there's Jay White, there's MJF, there's Matt Taven, Marty Scurll, and Sammy. I would say those are probably my top 5. And then you've got some other guys who are making a strong case for it.
Sure.
Like Darby Allin. Jesus Christ, that kid.
Yeah, I mean, Callahan and Mance Warner, I would have loved to have seen them be tag team champions together. But
and they did, and Jim Cornette had to go screw that up.
Yeah.
Because they had something, they had something magical going. I just hope Impact brings him in because those two together were magical.
Absolutely. Yeah, I saw something about Mance Warner, like people are saying Mance Warner needs to go to AEW and things like that. But you know what? Why? I mean, why does
just let him be where he's at.
Why does Mance Warner need to go anywhere? It's perfectly fine to have another promotion out there that has
talent.
Talented guys.
And outside
MLW's already lost a lot of their guys. I mean, they already lost Sammy. They already lost the Lucha Bros. They already lost Roosh. So. I don't see why people are aching for Mance Warner or Tom Lawler or Davey Boy Smith Jr. to go somewhere else when really, right now, this is the best place for them. I mean, they just got the other guy from the Dirty Blondes. I can't ever remember Leo something, in there, and now they lost Ace Romero to Impact. So I mean, it's like. I don't want them to lose anybody else, and really, while I do think Impact needs more younger, fresher guys since they've got so many ECW originals, I also think that MLW, if they lose anybody else, they're going to have trouble replenishing.
Well, yeah, and they lost Ace Austin too, who's a future superstar.
Right.
And I looking at that roster, I don't know. I mean. there's certain guys like Tom Lawler has some time left in him. So does the Hart Foundation. They all have some time left in them, but they're not young guys. You know, and they're not bringing in the name value. Teddy Hart might, but only because of the heart.
Brian Pillman Jr. is a very young guy.
Yeah, Brian Pillman is.
MJF is a very young guy.
And so is Richard Holiday and Hammerstone. And I mean, those guys are building blocks of anywhere they go. So I kind of hope they stay in MLW, because I'm still watching MLW as one of the best shows on the planet. From week to week, considering what they go through by losing talent, they are still week to week probably the best written show. AEW is making a strong run for that, but right now it's still MLW.
Yeah, right now it's Impact and MLW are the top two, quote unquote pro wrestling shows out there.
Right, and I haven't watched Impact enough to see where they're at. I do like the way AEW is running their shows. I guess I'll have to see more than just a month's worth to figure out if they're in that era too. But I've watched literally every episode of MLW Fusion since it started in 2017.
Right.
Or was it 18? 17, I think.
I think it was,
because we binge watched it last year.
I think it was like January or February of 18 it started. And then they had a few specials in 2017.
Okay, maybe that's what it was, but I know that they.
As far as giving Impact time, I mean, basically, I told you in person, and I tweeted out the other day that basically Impact is going to get the time now that I was devoting to NXT the last few weeks.
Oh yeah, I'm right there with you. I had no interest in watching NXT this week, and you and I have been talking about it all week long, and I kept saying I'm going to watch what I can of it because I want to compare it for the whole Wednesday Night War thing and all that stuff. I just don't think there's a comparison. I don't think NXT is on the level of AEW, and I don't know that it ever will be.
No, I think NXT just has too. I think the wrestling is too polished. It feels too choreographed. It feels too stagnant to me a lot of the time. I mean, like you said, we had the Finn Balor heel turn happen. I remember you said that while we were on the air or right before we went on the air, but you mentioned
it was right before I wanted to talk about it. But
and I mean, that's great. I mean, I'm glad he finally turned heel, but at the same time, if a tree falls in the forest, nobody's there to see it. Doesn't really fucking matter.
Well, and the fact that he turned heel 4.5 years too late. He should have turned heel when he came back from his injury. And they kept shoving that babyface persona down our throats, just killing him more and more and more.
It's kind of funny they did it right the week after they did like a big, it's like 2 straight weeks of having this big vignettes about him and how he turns heel the following week. If he'd come in and turned heel when he first debuted, that would have made a lot more sense.
Probably would have, but who was he going to turn heel on? Adam Cole? It had to be Johnny Gargano, and Johnny wasn't, because Johnny's the biggest babyface. If you're going to turn Balor heel, it's got to be against Johnny. One thing I did notice last week I didn't know
who he turned against, but yeah, Johnny makes sense.
One thing I did notice is there are very few wrestlers on the planet who are big-time heels. They get injured as a big-time heel and make their comeback, 4, 5, 6 months later, and can continue to be a heel. Eddie Guerrero was one that could do it. Sasha Banks did it after her. I mean, she wasn't gone for injury, but she was gone for 5 months. Other than that, is there really anybody that can come back and automatically be a heel? Even Ciampa, who was the best heel in the business last year, came back as a face.
Well, technically, Seth Rollins came back as a heel when he came back, but it didn't work very well.
No, it didn't.
He came back as a heel, challenging the babyface Roman Reigns. And there was basically a one-match double turn in that match where Roman was playing the heel, Seth was playing the face. Seth, countered the spear into the pedigree, hit him with another pedigree, won the championship, lost it right back to Dean Ambrose, and the next time he was a heel again. It was very weird.
Yeah, I guess that is true, but that was a complete failure too. But I guess you're right. He did try to come back as a heel. Even Ambrose came back as a face when everybody was expecting him to finally make that heel turn. It still took 4 or 5 months for him to make the heel turn.
Keep talking. My dog got herself stuck. Be right back.
But as far as NXT goes, it's sad because Ciampa, Gargano, Cole. I love Undisputed Era. I really like Dijakovic and Keith Lee. They've got so much talent. Candice LeRae, Shayna Baszler. It's just almost like Shane said. It's too polished, but it's too polished without the over the top name value that's going to draw people in. Unless you're a hardcore NXT fan or a hardcore wrestling fan, names like Ciampa and Gargano and Adam Cole just kind of escape your mind. They're not the names that, yeah, they'll sell tickets for NXT, but they're not going to sell tickets across the board.
No, I don't think so.
Which is odd because they're so talented. But the way they've been hidden in a developmental system for years keeps them from having that big name value.
Yeah, NXT, if they're going to move out of Full Sail, they're going to need a really big angle for that to happen. I don't see how. They're not going to be able to compete with AEW if they're not a touring brand, because otherwise they're just getting the same fans there all the time, and it's just like, what should we do this week? Oh, same thing we did last week. Meanwhile, like, if you're only there like every so often, people are excited to go see your show. Like if AEW were to come here to Minnesota, you and I would be ecstatic and we'd jump at the chance to go, right?
Speaking of which, NWA is coming to Minnesota. Yeah,
this coming or no, it was the 26th, wasn't it? So it was just this past Saturday.
Was it really? I thought it was. I thought it was November 26th. They said.
Well, maybe it was. I said October 26th, but.
Oh, I might have misheard.
Then we should go.
Right?
But if it was October 26th, then we missed the boat on that sucker.
Yeah, we did, and that's that. But why would they start advertising it literally 5 days before they go there?
Wait, did I already say the F word in this show? I did, didn't I?
Oh yeah, you did. You started the show with it.
What did I just tell you yesterday?
So much for cleaning it up, huh?
I just now realized it too. Delayed reaction like 20 minutes later.
Speaking of which, the station that I was talking to has an internet feed that we might start out on if we do it. So.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, and like I was saying, and how could I possibly forget Pete Dunne? When I'm running down the list of NXT talent, they've got so much talent. They're just so buried. They're buried in the field of developmental, so people don't realize how great these guys are. And then when you're performing... I
kind of hate that all the NXT talent is lumped together as NXT talent because they're really on 3 separate shows. It's not like they have like a roster of talent that's exclusive to NXT.
Right, you have NXT UK, you have 205 Live.
Right. And it's like they just pull anybody from WWE that they want to just try to stack the deck against AEW every Wednesday night, and it's not even a level fair playing ground. It's just simply that if WWE feels like throwing somebody on there, they do. I mean, I know your buddies Breezango are now permanent fixtures of NXT, and I heard today that that both Kevin Owens and Cesaro might be moving to NXT permanently, which would be honestly pretty awesome.
Yeah, and that might actually get me to watch. I mean, they've got so much talent that I already love. If you can add in a couple of top-notch heels, or even just a top-notch faction to go against Undisputed Era, I think that could possibly turn the tables a little bit. But right now, you've got Undisputed Era, who's just fighting against everybody, and then a collection of people fighting. Like Johnny Gargano, what is he doing? Oh, he's feuding with Finn Balor. Okay, why? There's really no lead up to it. And this was a guy who a year ago was in the middle of a heel turn after attacking Aleister Black.
Right.
Which never panned out.
God, I hated that storyline. I fucking loathe that detective bullshit.
I didn't like the detective stuff, but the fact that Johnny was turning heel kind of really did intrigue me. And then to never pull it off. He had that one-off match against Ricochet, and then all of a sudden he's a face again.
The amazing thing about that feud was how much I did not like their regular one-on-one match, how much I did like their cage match when I fucking hate cage matches.
Right. I don't know.
It was like name something that would be ironic for Shane to enjoy, and it was that cage match between those two guys in a storyline that I hated the entire thing of.
They do have so much talent, and I love watching people like Pete Dunne. But last week with that sappy little finish that they did with him looking all sad and dejected because he was still laying on the mat, really kind of turned me off of that style of wrestling. But Pete Dunne is one of the most talented people on the planet. So is Gargano. So is Ciampa. So is, all of Undisputed Era. Velveteen Dream has got some amazing talent. They've got Keith Lee is another guy who I think sky's the limit for him. And I really like that Dominic Dijakovic. I like him a lot. And then, of course, the women, there's Io Shirai and Shayna Baszler and Candice LeRae. They've got a lot of great, great talent. I just don't know that they're using them well.
It's so weird that WWE changed his name to Dominic Dijakovic, because it's like, sometimes they'll change guys' names, sometimes they won't. I don't know what the rhyme or reason is behind that, but Donovan Dijak was such a great name.
Right.
Then you have to add extra syllable onto the end of his name. It's just, and it makes it so difficult to say, so difficult to spell. You want to say Kovic, you want to say Kovic, you want to say Kovitz, So I mean, it's just really weird to think that they did that intentionally, changing his name like that.
Well, if they were going to change his name just to a Punishment Martinez and just make him somebody completely different.
Exactly. I mean, otherwise.
Or Trevor Lee's another one.
You just keep a reminder of like his old name and how much better it was than this modification of his name. And
right.
then, I just want to, say, because, I mentioned, Owens and Cesaro coming on, and we had talked about earlier about, guys that have never been world champions, and Cesaro was like right up there,
Yeah. So's Kevin Owens.
Well,
I guess he was Universal champion. So. Universal champion. Does that really count?
But he was still NXT champion.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. He was. Okay.
Meanwhile, Cesaro was Intercontinental and U.S. champion, but never actually held a title with a world designation to it.
And he's been a 5-star match machine for years.
Right. I mean, what was the match that really got the NXT TakeOver thing off the ground? It was
him and Sammy.
It was him against Sammy.
That's another guy who's just. I mean. And I hate to say it again because we bitch about it all the time about all that top tier talent going to waste. But Sami Zayn, come on. You've got a guy that can move in the ring and storytell like that, who can be what they wanted Finn Balor to be, that babyface that everyone could get behind. That's Sami Zayn. And then he turns heel and he proves that he can be a heel as well. They've missed the boat so much on him.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about that, but yeah, they really did. And you know what? I honestly, my big thing with him coming in the first place was he already had a gimmick that was perfect for WWE. Why the hell did you take the mask off him?
Oh, the Generico gimmick? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite part of that was when he was... I just remember a match with him and Daniel Bryan where he was just hugging everybody. The ring announcer, the referee, Daniel, or Bryan Danielson, I mean.
I don't know. I really thought it was a mistake to take that mask off him in the first place, and I still, 7 years later, I still feel the same way.
Well, they got to put their footprint on everything. And that's just basically the way it is.
So, we started talking about Impact, Bound for Glory pay-per-view, and we kind of got off track with that because it just... Well,
I think we pretty much covered it all, didn't we? Was there really anything that we missed?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I really enjoyed the world title match. I loved the in that match. I really loved the "that was murder" chant after the Pied Piper on the barricade.
And they had a couple of good ones too during the ladder match too, where the "please don't die" chant and the "safety first" chant both had me laughing pretty hard. Chicago was on fire.
It kind of irritates me when I hear someplace else because I was part of the crowd that started that at All In, and now hearing it someplace else, it just bugs me. Same thing with the whole. Both these guys chant. That started when I was at Takeover. So.
Yeah, maybe I'd feel different if I was there when it started, but I don't know. I still enjoyed them.
Yeah, because it was just so funny chanting it at the same time, just kind of laughing internally that we were chanting safety first to guys that were standing on top of a ladder about to put it with
die.
Hangman Page about to put Joey Janela through the table with what's now called Deadeye.
Right. I don't know. It's just those chants made me laugh. All three of them. That was murder. One was good.
And like we said, coming on to the before we actually got on the air, when we were talking about right before we went on the air, one of the big things that stood out to me about Bound for Glory was it wasn't on there because the Rascals,
right,
unlike fucking Brian Cage, actually earned a spot on a pay-per-view card.
Exactly, I agree.
Yet they were in a dark match, ended up airing on This Is Impact in the main event there, rather than actually being, the opening match for us, viewers. So we didn't actually get to see the Rascals on that card, which was very irritating to me. They've been announced, they've been super exciting for months, and they weren't on there. And you know what? I keep saying this stuff about Brian Cage, and it makes it sound like I have something against the guy. I honestly don't. I enjoy Brian Cage a lot. I enjoy watching him in the ring. I love his gimmick. I love the Wolverine thing he wore down to the ring. I thought that was great, being a big Wolverine fan in my non-wrestling fandom. But it's simply the fact that, to me, his world title reign has been a disaster with all the injuries he's had, with taking time off to have a baby and get married. It's just been such a perfect storm of bad timing for him to be the world champion that I've just been itching for him to not have that title anymore and to kind of rebuild himself again.
Did you notice how disgusted his wife looked after he kissed her in the middle of the ring after the match?
I thought with her coming down, I thought for sure something has to happen here, right? She has to turn on him. Something's got to happen. But no, it's just, they're kissing in the middle of the ring to end the show, and it's like, okay, you just ended a pay-per-view really great 3 months before that with the crowd cheering for Tessa Blanchard after Callahan's given her the ring, and right. Now you end it with this mulchy BS. It really left a bad taste in my mouth.
Well, because he was bleeding from the mouth through most of the match.
Yeah.
And after he kissed her, she just looked disgusted and was wiping her mouth off. I thought that was pretty funny too. That was actually pretty entertaining.
Nice image, huh?
Right. But yeah, I mean, I got nothing else on this one. I was not impressed with it at all. I mean, there were some things that happened throughout that were okay, but Ace Romero needs to just leave my TV.
I don't get why you don't like him. I honestly don't get it.
I think it's because
he's also a person. How can you not like that guy?
Well, I mean, that would be fine, except for the fact that Don Callis is still doing the same stupid jokes throughout the entire match about a big guy that's going to break the ladders. I mean, he did that. He made that "can that ladder support him" joke at least a dozen times during that match. And let's not even talk about the beginning. The beginning of that match just angered me. When Daga comes out and he's looking for that ladder underneath the ring when there's three of them sitting right by him, and he goes and looks under one side. Oh, it's not there, so he goes to the other side. And then the ring comes in. Ace Austin does that spot where the ladder wasn't set up well, so he kind of stumbled up the ladder. And then it gets kind of thrown to the side. And then Ace Austin goes out, or, AC Baby or Romero, whatever the hell they call him, completely ignores the ladder in the ring, goes out to get another ladder, which, okay, I'm fine with the, logic holes there. But to have Josh Matthews say that Ace Romero is introducing a ladder into the ring for the first time when there's one laying in the ring, that just angered me.
But he was introducing one for the first time. AC Romero had not introduced a ladder yet.
So then say, Ace Romero is bringing in his first ladder, not introducing a ladder for the first time in the ring.
It made sense for him to have to go get a ladder though, because remember how he used one for each side of his body because he was so big. I thought that was a really cool spot.
Yeah, I mean that was good, and I like that was the only good spot that Jake Crist had in the entire match, was that cutter off the top of the ladder. Other than that, he was just a disappointment.
Yeah, I guess he was. I mean, I don't know why, but I just couldn't get interested in that match. Maybe because the rest of the card before that was so lackluster as well. You know?
Well, that was the one I was looking forward to the most. I mean, it had Ace Austin, Jake Crist, two of my favorites in Impact, two guys that could. This is a match that they're made for, and they just went out and was such a lackluster performance. I mean, they gave Ace Romero way too much of the time in that match, way too much of it. And then they left people like Tessa and Jake and Tessa wasn't even a big part of it. She had a couple of spots, but it was mainly Daga and Ace Romero.
This is going to sound really stupid, Jeff, and I'm sorry, but it's simply the way I feel. It's like, I had mentioned to you like last week or maybe even the week before that, I feel like if Rob Van Dam's going to be in a World Tag Team Championship match, it should be with Sabu as his partner.
Right.
With Sabu being 800 years old and Van Dam being out of shape, the pairing of Rob Van Dam and Rhino never made sense to me. And so in that gauntlet match, when one of the entrants was Sabu, that just totally made me go okay, the rest of the show makes no sense now.
Right.
And I realize now why it ended up being, why it had to be Rhino, because we could turn on Rhino. But at the same time, like from the moment that Sabu came out until the end of that tag match, I was like, what the hell is happening here? How could they have booked it so poorly? And then Eddie winning the gauntlet too was so predictable that I almost was just lost with that too. Because I mean, when there was three guys left, I mean clearly, it was either going to be Eddie or it was going to be Shera, right? But
no, it was going to be Eddie from the start. From the moment that he came down to the ring, it was Eddie. There was nobody else that was even in consideration.
And isn't that sad?
There was nobody in my mind that I thought was like, okay, this is a guy who actually, or woman who actually has a chance to win this and go after a title. This is a way to get Eddie Edwards on the card and get him over. When maybe you take Ace Romero out of that ladder match and put Eddie in there. He continues his feud with Ace Austin. He doesn't need to go on and win a gauntlet battle, whatever the hell it was, with just to get himself a championship opportunity down the line.
No, the guy who should have won that gauntlet match, and see if you follow my logic with this, but it's what the hell is his name? Fulton. It should have been Madman Fulton.
I felt like it should have been him or Shera. I think either one of those two.
I think Fulton leads to a lot of great storyline opportunities.
Yeah, that is true.
Because then if say that Austin's title reign isn't very long and the Golden Draw gets it back, well then you've got Fulton as holding that chance at any title he wants to hold, and then he's got two guys in his stable are holding the two singles championships.
Right.
So to me, that would have been, that to me is how I would have booked it personally. But I mean, and Eddie, the problem with Eddie holding that spot is he's a babyface. I mean, even if he's a psycho crazy babyface, he's still a babyface. And B, he's so well established in that company. He's the longest tenured active wrestler in that company, that he should be able to get any title shot at any title that he wants to at any time. Him holding that shot really is just taking it away from somebody else.
God, I just realized that. How sad is that? That Eddie Edwards is the longest tenured guy in the company.
Right, he's been there, about 7 or 8 years now, right?
Something like that, yeah. I mean, he came with with Davey Richards in 14?
Yeah, I was thinking it was like
Or is it 13?
2012, but I could be wrong.
That's possible. All I know is you're right, though, but he is the longest reigning. I am glad that granted, it took half the match before they finally did it, but I am glad that they finally acknowledged Ken Shamrock as the first ever Impact World Champion.
Yeah.
Granted, it took half the match, but it was nice that they finally did it.
Oh, God. How bad was that match? Seriously.
Oh, that was brutal. That was embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. From both guys. Ken Shamrock did some things that you don't expect a 55-year-old guy to do, but look at how jacked he is. Of course he can still jump over a top rope.
Yeah, and Moose just... he is so good when somebody can carry him in there, but he's incapable of carrying somebody. And Shamrock at this stage in his career has to... I used to be a big fan of Shamrock, but I mean, the way he is right now in the ring... He's got to be carried by somebody, and then you put your young guy Moose, who calls himself a legend, calls himself the most dangerous man, calls himself the best wrestler on the planet, and yet he's constantly in danger of losing to a 55-year-old guy.
Right.
It was to me kind of booked backwards. It should have been that Moose was dominating the match, and then Shamrock would occasionally get a spot where he could get that ankle lock locked on it, and that's where the danger was to Moose, is just not getting caught with that ankle lock. Instead, it was like Shamrock was constantly dominating the match and getting the ankle lock on. So what did Moose actually do in there other than just kind of cower and run away and cheat to win?
Well, and
it made Moose look completely awful when really he should have been able to look strong against Shamrock.
Well, and you said it too. It's like Moose looks great when he's got somebody like Austin Aries or Croc or Eddie Edwards opposite him. But the second he gets into, we noticed it in that. I think the first time I really noticed it was in that House of Glory one, where he was in that 3-way and then he just quit halfway through.
He just pimped out, yeah.
Yeah. He was like, I'm done, and walked out of the ring. I think that was really the first time I noticed that he is just not... Because the matches I saw before that were those three guys. There was him against Croc, there was him against Austin Aries, and then there was him against Eddie Edwards. Right. And I thought he was great in all three of those. And then I saw that, and it's like he's so up and down with his match work, and you can tell he's a young guy. Maybe too young to be in the position he's in, but again, I guess who else are they going to give it to?
Yeah, and the spots they've been giving him are not really beneficial to him simply because he doesn't have the talent to pull it off. Because Slammiversary was against Rob Van Dam, so yeah, I mean, great, he's beating a legend, but at the same time, the match was lackluster. It wasn't as bad as this one. I'll give it that, but it wasn't. It was still lackluster. And now we've got this one, which is probably in the running for top 5 matches of the year against Shamrock.
Oh God, there's been some bad ones.
But this was.
There's been some bad ones.
This to me was just horrible.
It's still not worse than the Vampiro Crazy Steve match from last year.
Yeah, that was a year ago. I was talking about for this calendar year.
I know, but when I look back at all time, that's still the worst.
And yet you can't wait to watch the rematch this year. You're so weird.
I am not even... If that comes on my TV, I'm breaking somebody's fingers. That is not going to happen. Speaking of which, we're doing MLW's pay-per-view this weekend. We're going to sit down and enjoy that.
Yes.
I'm actually looking forward to it. Looks like a good card.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see Teddy versus Austin Aries. That's a match that I'm really, really high on.
Yeah, and this is the Von Erichs against Dynasty, right?
Yep. And Hammerstone against Davey Boy. And then we have what could be a bad main event. I mean, I don't know how a match could be bad when Jacob Fatu's in it. Oh yeah, you put L.A. Park against him.
Yeah, that is really and that calls to mind the whole Conan thing, how bad that was.
Right. With the Conan versus Low Ki and the shanking incident.
No, the whole Conan had the phone thing. He was supposed to get those 3 demands, and then he gets ambushed, and the phone's taken away. We never see Conan again.
And we still don't know what his second and third demands were.
No, and he doesn't have to give them anymore either because he no longer has the phone because he was too stupid to make a copy of the files on there.
Right, yeah, because why would you? You know? And here I was just saying how great MLW was, and then I got two bad things happen right there. Back to back.
You know, but isn't it amazing how many big pay-per-views this year are taking place in Chicago? Like, you know, we have the Odeum on this one, we have All Out, and now this one coming up for MLW is also in Chicago.
Well, and you also had there were a couple other shows in Chicago too. I mean, you had the Takeover Chicago, which was one of the better ones. I just think that wasn't that. I thought, what was it earlier this year?
Takeover Toronto 2 was there. There was Takeover 25. I don't know what all of them were, but
wasn't 25 in Chicago, or was that in New York? No, that was in New York.
Oh my God! I didn't know this match was going to be on the pay-per-view. Did you see this?
Which one?
Jimmy Havoc versus Bestia 666 versus Mance Warner in a Stairway to Hell match.
I knew Havoc and Warner were in a Stairway to Hell match. It was announced last week on his little Jimmy Havoc takeover.
Well, Bestia 66 has been added in there too, so it's two members
Good God.
of Los Promociones de la Rento.
Well, I think Jimmy is on the outs with them after this last week.
Oh, okay.
Because he booked a match against Contra Unit against El Hijo de LA Park, and Hijo got his ass whooped.
Okay.
Like, pretty badly got his ass whooped. Like, even though he's wearing a full bodysuit, you could tell he was bleeding inside.
Aw. And now we've got there's Injustice versus Gringo Loco versus King and Septimo Dragon, which is sad because that means Airwolf isn't in that match.
Oh.
I know.
I think I just saw Airwolf was in Minneapolis this weekend.
Probably was, yeah.
I think I saw there was a card he was booked for.
Yeah, I got to see him live a few months ago, remember?
Yeah, I know. Still jealous.
Low Key versus Brian Pillman Jr.
That one has one of the worst lead-ins I've ever seen to a match.
What's that?
Well,
I haven't seen it.
Pillman, after he lost to Austin Aries, the next week is having an interview and Low Key interrupts him and starts talking to him about how he needs to keep control of his emotions and all this stuff, and then Brian just kind of says, "No, thank you," and walks off. So now they're in a match.
Oh. Okay.
It was a little stronger than "No, thank you," but that was about the gist of it.
Right. And then we have Timothy Thatcher versus Tom Lawler, which should be a strong, technical match.
Technical match. Yeah, I have no interest in it though. That's the sad part.
Why is that?
I don't see what it is with Timothy Thatcher, I guess.
I can see
to me he just kind of seems like a average run-of-the-mill guy that they're throwing out there and saying he's a technical wizard. We've only seen him in two matches. One of them was against Davey Boy, which you have to know what Davey Boy's capable of to realize that's his style of match. And then the other one was against some no-namer that we've never heard of before. And then he starts challenging Tom Lawler.
Right. I see where you're coming from with that.
But then again, Tom.
But at the same time, they
Tom
haven't had
Lawler.
a lot of time to build that up either. I mean, they were trying to build. I mean, they probably should have taken a little bit extra time to build this pay-per-view rather than having it this quick. But at the same time, I mean, once they had the date announced, they kind of had to build some matches to it quickly.
Well, and the fact that they had Hell in a Cell or the War Chamber. They had to finish that storyline between Contra and Lawler, and of course, Low Key. They were planting the seeds of that for 4 months ahead of time.
Right.
So, that would have maybe been a good spot for Thatcher to be there, but they'd already pretty much given the spot to Low Key.
That is very true. That would have been a good spot for him.
because then we could have saw the two of them work together and see how they work together. But the way that they had gotten rid of Low Key with I can't think of her name, De Laurado, and brought Contra in to beat him up, kind of set the tone that he was going to be that fourth guy for months before they even announced there was going to be a War Chamber match, and Tom Lawler was going to be in it.
It is kind of weird now that you mention it, that like the War Chamber ended and like none of the stuff from that War Chamber has trickled out to anything else since then.
No, it hasn't. It's like it didn't exist.
Yeah.
I mean,
like
at least
it's like that was the end of the feud right there. And yes, I get it. Like the War Chamber, War Games type match should end a feud, but it's still weird that we had like this alliance between Low Key and the Von Erichs and Tom Lawler, and now like they've all gone their separate ways.
Well, and if you look at it last year, there was the Jimmy Havoc Sami Callihan feud that came out of it and lasted for a long time. Yeah. The very first one that we watched, it ended up being Carino versus Terry Funk that came out of that match. So right. Usually in every War Game I ever saw before, there was always something that came out of it until this one.
Right.
Well, and I guess the WWE or the NXT one really didn't have much that came out of it either.
Yeah, I still have trouble calling the NXT ones actual War Games.
Yeah.
But, I'm traditional.
Although Pete Dunne being locked in a cage was kind of entertaining.
Yeah, that match was just too long, though.
It did kind of drag.
Yeah.
The only other thing I really have tonight is how much I'm enjoying NWA Power. And I know I said in the beginning that retro feel was going to wear on me, but I'm actually starting to like it more and more as the weeks go on, just because it is so different. The one thing I did notice is that they keep calling themselves the first studio television show or wrestling television show since whenever.
Yeah. What
has NXT been for the last 12 years, 7 years, whatever, how long they've been around?
Well, they're not actually filmed in a television studio, though. They're filmed on a college campus, in a college arena, whereas where they filmed the NWA Power is actually in a television studio.
Well, if they're filmed on a campus in an arena, why can't they get more than 500 people in it?
There must be a small arena, I guess. I don't know.
It's like an auditorium.
Okay, it's still not. An auditorium is still not a television studio.
Yeah, but it's still small.
Yeah, and they had said this is the first small production in however many years, and then that'd be a problem. But that's not what they say.
All right, yeah, fair enough. I did. Going back to last week's NXT, I did like the "Daddy's Home" chant.
Yeah.
As soon as Ciampa said it.
That was actually a couple NXTs ago.
Was it?
Yeah.
All I know is I'm a fan of Ciampa still. It's hard to not be. But the NWA Power, there was some good stuff that happened in that again. And this is the third straight week in a row that there's been some good stuff. I'm really liking that Aaron Stevens. I love the fact that he's back to his Damian Sandow gimmick. Yeah. Absolutely love it, because he was so great at that, and the fact that he's able to do it again is it's refreshing to watch. And I love what Eli Drake is doing.
I do too, and I love him kind of like giving that pep talk to Tim Storm and all that stuff. I mean, I still think we're looking at like probably a Tim Storm heel turn, but I really like where this is going with him.
Well, I like what Eli Drake is doing. Where he's coming out, and he's one of the top 2 or 3 stars in the promotion, and everybody else is a heel. Tim Storm is one of the top guys, but he's not one of the, not one of the most well-known ones. James Storm is definitely a heel. Nick Aldis is a heel, and there's really nobody else out there. And then you've got Eli Drake, who's coming out and giving pep talks to literally everybody. Last week it was Storm. This week it was the other Storm. and he's giving them pep talks and getting them all geared up to go on and do what they got to do. And it's refreshing to see his character like that.
Yeah, it is. I agree because he's just a character, but I just love the way that his character is kind of leading into other people's characters too.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it's very well done, and I don't know what to think of that whole that interviewer that keeps going after Camille. I have no clue what to think of that. Even when he says, I'm not going to do it this time, he still does it.
I know. It's interesting. I don't know where this whole Camille thing is going, because clearly she doesn't have anything to say, but, at some point is she going to, just haul off and deck that dickhead?
Or is she going to turn on Aldis, cost him the title?
I don't think so. And that was kind of weird that, the interviews, they said it to be about his next challenger, but all they discussed was who, they just said, somebody could be my next challenger. Goodbye.
Right. A couple of things that
it's not like they're going to do a pay-per-view in December or anything.
Right. Yeah. Another thing that really struck me that I got a really good laugh out of was when they announced that Tim Storm was going to be there to interview next, and then they came back and it was Aaron Stevens, and they went through that whole interview, and then they go to break again and it says, up next, Tim Storm. Then underneath it said, this time we promise. I thought that was pretty funny too.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, I think they.
And you know what? I think that you and I both need to pitch in together and get some of that invisible hair cream.
Oh, absolutely. And I need to join that guy's wrestling school too.
Yes, you do.
And it's nice to see Ken Anderson back too. And he looks like he's.
Somebody asked me this weekend, actually. So you guys do a wrestling show? How come you guys aren't wrestlers? I'm like, really?
Do you look at us? All you got to do is look at me and understand why I'm not a wrestler. But it is nice to see Ken Anderson back, and he looks like he's sober again.
Yeah.
So I hope he is, because he had a really rough time after Impact. Well, TNA.
And it was nice to see him come out and pull Cabana out, saving him, establishing that they're remaining a tag team.
Right. And I'm still confused what the hell Cole Cabana's doing. I mean, I got it last week with his comedy routine, but this week, what purpose did that serve?
I do not know. It was funny.
Yeah, but outside of that, what purpose did it serve?
What purpose does Cole Cabana ever serve?
That's a good point.
I mean, I've always enjoyed his wrestling in the ring, and I've enjoyed his commentary as he's gotten better with it. But I mean, really, where does anything involving Cole Cabana ever really go?
That's a good point. He does he does know how to entertain people. I will say that.
He does.
Still the NWA 70 in that 4-way match with the glove spot when he slapped the referee. Still one of my favorite wrestling moments of last year.
And that's kind of bugging me too. It's like they did the NWA 70 last year. Why are they waiting until Into the Fire instead of doing an NWA 71st anniversary this year?
Yeah, the only reason I can think is that maybe it's just because they just now started up. And they're only 3 weeks in, and last year it was mid-November that they did the NWA 70. Maybe they didn't want to do another November pay-per-view.
But that's their own choice. I mean, they already had the partnership going with Ring of Honor. They could have pushed it that way instead of and built up to that NWA 71st anniversary instead of breaking off from Ring of Honor so early and starting a TV show. It just seems like weird strategy to me. Like if you're establishing yourself as a company and you're trying to get, one of the big things is like having regular events people can look forward to. And you would think that when they started with the 70th with an anniversary show last year, they'd want to keep that rolling for this year.
Yeah, you would think so. And that would make sense. But that would have been a good anniversary show for them every single year.
Yeah, it would.
Kind of like All In, All Out, and WrestleMania, and what are some of the other Bound for Glory?
Yep.
They've all got their big blow-off shows. That would have been a good one for them.
I think so. What do you think of Caleb Conley? Because to me, like, he's got some nice moves, but he doesn't really have much in the way of a personality.
I felt the same way.
He's hard to, like, actually, get behind to me.
I felt the same way when he was in Impact, too. He just always seems like he's falling flat with whatever he's doing.
Yeah. No, I can't think of his name in Impact anymore, but Grimes, Cameron Grimes was, clearly the better part of their team.
Well, he was Caleb Conley.
What?
When he was in Impact, he was Caleb Conley.
I know, but I'm saying Cameron Grimes' character. I can't remember his name.
Trevor Lee.
Trevor Lee, yeah. He was, I thought it was Trevor something. Yeah, Trevor Lee,
yeah.
To me was always the class of that team.
Well, yeah.
And now, like, it's clear that, he wasn't just the class of the team. Like, Conley doesn't really have much hook to him. He's a strong performer, and he's got some nice flippy-do stuff, but as far as something to actually hook you into or make you want to keep buying in and watching him, I don't see much there.
No, and I never thought there was much with him. I always felt like he was Trevor Lee's lackey. And when you see the performances that Cameron Grimes is doing now, compared to what Caleb Conley is doing now, it really does show who the star of that team was.
Right.
But then again, Trevor Lee was a star before Caleb Conley even came into the company.
Was he? Because I thought they were both kind of following Gregory Shane Helms around for a while, weren't they?
They were, but Trevor Lee came in and had the X Division Championship run before Conley even got there.
Ah, that's true. Okay. I had forgotten about that. Hey, it's National First Responders Day today, and my son's a paramedic, so go Cody.
Right there, Cody. Go.
Hey, you talk about your son all the time, so shut up.
Hey, I love my son.
Wow, your son actually stayed in bed tonight.
Yeah, he's not feeling the best again.
Am I starting to sound like the alcohol is affecting me?
No, not yet.
Okay. All right.
Am I starting to sound like there's no alcohol in my system and it's not affecting me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so anything else for tonight?
I don't really have much, no. I mean, like I said, we pretty much covered everything.
I think we did too. We mentioned the MLW show coming up this Saturday. We're going to cover. Are we going to do live? Are we going to do like live right after for your house, or are we just going to talk about it on Monday?
I was thinking about that. I don't know. We'll talk about it more this week.
Because I don't know what we'd cover on Monday if we cover it right after the show.
Well, not just that. I don't know how we would do it. We're so used to doing it on Skype. I don't know if I could look you in the eyes while I'm talking to you.
I know. It's sad. You might just fall in love.
I doubt it.
You might. I said you might.
All right. Yeah, I got nothing. Guys, make sure you check us out on Patreon. We're doing some revamping, reworking, reorging, trying to figure out how to balance 2+ shows a week. And but our Patreon is still going. It's the best way to support us if you can. Patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. We've got tiers for all kinds of fans. And Ryan
actually sent us a tweet asking if we're going to do any Patreon shows this week. And my best answer right now is I don't think so.
I don't know. It's all I can say. It's just, this is my week with my son, but I also, he's not going to be here Halloween, so I don't know. And then if we got a Crash Watch with AEW, which used to be our Thursday night prep night, was on Wednesday, but now we have AEW. It's just making life a whole lot more difficult. Mm-hmm. But we'll see. I mean, it's something I feel strongly about, something I definitely want to keep going. So yeah, go check it out. Donate to us. It helps us out so that we can continue to put out content. Also, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Kingdom of Honor. Hit subscribe, hit the like button on all the videos, hit subscribe, click the views, and so that we can get that one up and going. And Twitter. You can follow me at Regi Co-op. You can follow him at XanMan LOP. Use hashtag KOH and hashtag DAD. That gets us to both. That gets you to both of our shows that we do on this channel. And everything I tweet ends up having those hashtags in it. So.
And make sure you stay tuned to all the other LOP radio shows. So tomorrow, hopefully the Gold Revolution will be back. I think they're supposed to be back tomorrow. On Wednesday, Sports Entertainment is Dead. On Thursday is Imp's LOP Radio Adventure. On Friday is The Right Side of the Pond. Make sure you also check out the LOP Radio, the Lords of Pain YouTube channel, where all our stuff is now being, all the LOP radio stuff is now being posted. Basically, the day it comes on the air here. And that's all we've got. We'll try to do better next time. This is Shane saying long days to nights, and Jeff saying
goodbye.
G1 Climax 27. Goodbye and good night. Bang.